everybody, welcome back to 30 Days Until Done. This is the 1st of July and we're starting an entirely new month, and this month is the Find Your Parks month. It's part of the National Parks Initiative about going out and finding a park, and I think that's great. If you can get to a national park, that's great. If you can get to a national forest, that's great. If you can get to a city park, that's great. If not, you can write about the city, right? The city is a natural biosphere, right? And it's perfectly good writing about that. But we're writing about the natural world this month. And here's the thing about writing about nature poetry, any sort of nature poetry. If you do straight nature poetry, then it doesn't really work. You know, what people do is they'll drive up to the mountains and they'll try to write a poem about this tree over here, or maybe this one, the smaller one over here. There's one right on the river growing out of the rocks. They try to write about that tree. The problem with writing about that tree is that you can't write it outside of its context, and you get this "Oh Tree" poem. But if you try to write that tree, it's not going to work, because that tree doesn't exist by itself. What exists is this whole forest around it. And you can see the Kaweah River running through here, and all of these plants, these flowers, all of this exists. You have to write it within the context of that thing, including the bugs and the spiders and whatever. But here's the thing about it. When you come up to the forest and you enter the forest, you're no longer a tourist in the forest. You are a part of that forest, right? And so what you bring in is perfectly legitimate to put in the poem as well. Also, it's a lot more interesting. So what is the relationship of that tree with you, and with the dirt, and with the river, and everything else, right? As we're passing through it, your relationship, you are the forest, right? You are the part of the biosphere. It's easy to forget that when you're at work, or doing whatever. You go into Walmart every day, whatever you're doing, because you're stuck in these half-hour events, and you forget that you're part of this stuff. Okay, so how would I write about that tree? I would probably write about my history with that tree. I've had a very long history with that tree. I have not seen that tree since 1985, when my parents came up. We're along the Marble Fork of the Kaweah River, coming out of Lodgepole right now. My parents took us up here, and we went along this path, and we went swimming. And that's the last time I've been here. But now I'm seeing this tree again. I probably didn't notice it the first time. The only reason I noticed it this time is this. That history is a relevant history, right? And that's something that I can write about. And I'd probably write about how it's just barely hanging on there. This rock is as important to the discussion of this biosphere and that tree as the tree itself is, right? And that river is too. And I think about years when the water's riding high, it's probably gone over that tree at some point, right? I'm thinking about that tree. So I'd probably write about, right, how I have grown and that tree has grown. I've probably had a larger percentage of growth over the years than that tree has, because it's got so little soil. It looks like it's growing out of pine needles. That can't be the case, but that's what it looks like. And that's what my poem would be about. If I were in the city and I weren't going to leave the city, I'd probably write about the grass coming out of between the concrete, that kind of thing, right? Or maybe I'd write about that, those ants that are permanently invading my house because I live in Claremont, and how they did it in Walnut. Walnut ants, I don't know, Walnut has a special relationship with ants, right? That kind of thing, and how they're living in that thing. So it's the natural world, and we are not detached from the natural world. We're part of it. We're part of that biosphere. Okay, so when you're done with this poem, put it down below, and I'll see you tomorrow on 30 Days Until Done.